Is there anything that you've heard someone else say tonight that has particularly struck you, and that's any of you can chip in? Please.
I wonder, is there, Mick, a moment when you can identify being comfortable saying that you became a Christian? Was there a transitional moment, or was it in phase?
It was a phase, but I knew, I was certain that there was more to life than me. I got a moment of clarity where my self-propulsion didn't work. There had to be something else. And that was definitive, yeah, I had a definitive moment. Didn't know what it was, exactly what it was, but I knew there was something, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I actually wanted to ask Lily-Jo sort of the counterpart to that question, which is that how do you think it helped or not being brought up in a Christian family?
I think it gave me a solid kind of belief system that I could go into the world with. I think as I've explored other avenues and obviously undertaken my counselling training, which is very humanistic in nature, it's also brought up some questions, but I think it gave me like this real solid foundation what I could kind of go out into the world with.
Now, I was just going to ask, so there's the theme for all three of us with mental health, so I guess I'd want to ask both of you really. Do you see the struggles with your mental health in a negative light or a positive light, or do you not care? I don't know, maybe ask you first, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's the most amazing gift, and I wouldn't wish it away, but it was so horrible at the time, and I'm still scared that it might happen again. Who knows? I don't know.
I feel like for me it was again a gift to get to the point where I was like at rock bottom, and then to be able to learn how to climb out of that, and then to be able to use it to kind of, well, I guess it's changed my whole outlook on life, you know, to be doing what I'm now doing, which is consistently every day working within mental health and educating children on how to look after their mental health. And I just don't know where I would be if I hadn't have experienced that. Maybe I would be working at Asda stacking the shelves. But that's okay. I just feel like it set me on a path that I wasn't expecting. But I'm so glad it's like turning that pain into power and being able to go, actually, I can kind of stand on this mountain that, like, I don't know, that's a bit of a weird thing to say. But yeah, it's something that I feel has been a gift to me as well.
It's almost like, to take that idea of a mountain, it's like I didn't know I was standing on a mountain. So I was just, I was unaware of that stuff that's down there that turned out to be useful. But what about you, Mick?
It's a gift. I'm still mentally ill, but I'm happy, if you know what I mean. I don't feel like I'm cured, but I don't care. I'm really happy and content, and I kind of, I like being with mentally ill people. Schizophrenics are my favourite friends. I'm very close with lots of schizophrenics. So it's like, I am healed, but I'm not. And I'm happy to be who I am within it. And I think me having a mental breakdown, or whatever you want to call it, has allowed me to be comfortable, not just with myself, but with other people. So I was always trying to be somebody else. You know, I spent my whole life trying to be somebody else. You know, I created personas that made me ill. And now I can just be who I am. I'm quite happy to be nuts, really, to be honest with you.
I really agree about this idea of, it's not always the case, but but people who are confessedly a bit broken can be great to hang out with.
Yeah.
And there's a word that Lily-Jo used, being teachable.
Yeah.
And it makes people so much more, just easy.
There's a type of humility in it, isn't there? There's a type of humility in knowing who you are in all that, you know.
And I guess like the statistics show that 1 in 4 adults will struggle with a mental health issue at some point in your adult life. So, you know, at some point we might get to that point, all of us, or have already been there, where we feel like, you know, oh my goodness, this depression is so dark, or this anxiety is crippling. Like, that is part of life, really. And I guess if you go through your life and you've never experienced that, then that's incredible. But 1 in 4 of us will at some point, because of circumstances, because of things that we face, people that we lose, situations that happen. So I think it's important that we know that that's the case, but also that there's hope in that, and that, you know, it doesn't mean the end for you. It means that we've got more to learn about the world, and we've got, I just believe that everybody can find their healing, whether that's through drawing and writing, or helping others, or whatever it is that you do. I think we can all find that.
So I have a question. It's just, I guess, kind of for you, John Paul. I get the sense more from Pastor Mick and Lily-Jo that there's a sense of actively wanting to help people through their work, their books. And when you were talking about your book, you certainly had a hope that when people would read it, that it would change people. But it was in a slightly more passive way. It's like this was kind of an outpouring of yourself. And I suppose I want to ask: is that a correct characterization?
And I want to answer. Thank you so much, because I think that in a way that Lily-Jo particularly talked about having to do self-care, talking about self-care. I heard that word a lot over the last 10, 15 years, those 2 words. And I used to think it was about having baths with candles around the edge. and I thought, I don't really need a bath with a candle around the edge, or 10 or whatever. So it's never meant anything at all to me. But Lily-Jo's explanation about, you know, fit your own oxygen mask first is a great way of just saying it's okay to be me and to have my own interests, and not to have to be like writing a book called How to Change the World so that everyone will be all right. I don't have to make everyone all right by doing a book like that. So I'm just going to do my thing over here. And if you like it, then that's great. And if you don't, well, that's great too, because you're the expert on you. But this is my book, and like, I enjoyed doing it. And I think that's what I'm really enjoying about this book, is that it's not forcing me to, I do it so easily. Thinking about mental health, I do talks about mental health all the time. I'm often quite mystified that anyone isn't talking about mental health. It seems like everyone's talking about mental health. So for me, it's a great relief not to be trying to fix anything.
Thank you.
I feel greedy though, because I've asked lots of questions. But I did want to ask John Paul, you have such a, maybe this is a public pitch, but I'd love for you to write a book on tender masculinity, because it feels like you embody the opposite of a toxic masculinity, and in such a gentleness to you. Were you a different person when you were setting up, when you were selling 16 languages, best-selling book, setting up the magazine of the Financial Times? Like, is your temperament very similar, or has that changed through your mental health journey?
I think on the face of it, people wouldn't have seen much difference. I got very dark and gloomy and Eeyore-ish when I was unwell, and I disappeared, frankly. I mean, I just disappeared out of the world and didn't do very much. I came off social media and things, but I think people probably would have thought I was a bit like this, whatever this is, but maybe I was more keen to be a people pleaser then, and didn't allow myself to say no to things as much, and didn't allow myself to just get in a sulk and go off somewhere quietly. And well, no, I would have sulked, but I wouldn't. But I wouldn't have done it graciously in any good way. So I think I'm just a little bit happier with myself without necessarily having the front change so much. thank you for the question.
Can I just quickly second that question? Sorry, James. But just actually moving on to Pastor Mick. I guess similarly, I suppose you've mentioned that you've obviously changed quite significantly, but there is still this element inside you. You mentioned, I think you referenced kind of punching someone in a shop. That feeling, but you don't. That kind of tension inside you, like how is that? Is that a battle? Or is that just something you're aware of? Can you kind of elaborate?
So my understanding of it for myself is that it's almost like a spiritual conviction of what I really am. But because I believe it's a conviction from God, there's no guilt in it or shame. There's a great joy in it. So when I think these crazy things and I smile and I thank God, all my prayers are grateful. I know you talked about gratitude, but I really, really am grateful, for the mess that I am. So therefore, negativity doesn't exist for me anymore. I'm nuts and I'm happy and I think stupid things and I'm really comfortable in that and I thank God. And that's the understanding of faith, because I thought, so if Jesus died for my sins, then I have to know what they are. Otherwise he died for nothing. So I need to know that I'm a sinner. And there's a massive joy in it. He died for me. My sin. And I kind of get happy about that. I get grateful about that. And it goes. My mind is changing. I am being renewed. I am being made a better person, I'm really learning how to not hate. I don't have it. It seems to have gone somewhere. I don't know where it went, but it seems to have gone, So yeah.
I've been asked, I'll ask the next one. I've been overwhelmed by what we've heard this evening from each of you, and I appreciate the honesty and openness, and the editors and the staff who've made these books happen. Congratulations to them as well. The question I have, I'm really asking you not to give a textbook answer. So that's the preamble. Please don't give what you think ought to be the answer. If you were meeting yourself or speaking to yourself, or if someone had been speaking to you in the darkest places you've been, if I say, what would the gospel have been to you? What would good news have been to you? What fundamental reality of the Christian gospel do you wish you had heard or been told or had grasped? I'm really interested in what it feels like in the context you were in, or for people you are helping and talking to. What's the most essential gospel good news that you wish you had heard or would like to hear?
Yeah, can I go first? For me, I would have wanted to hear that I am loved unconditionally. So without anything other than just pure, unconditional love. That's what I would have wanted to hear.
My brain is doing that, can I interrogate the question thing? So if I were to think about maybe one of the times when I was most lonely in my depression and anxiety, I might go for the story that I'll get wrong, and I won't. Oh, was it? Oh, good. I won't get it right, but it's the bit about the sinner at the back and the Pharisee at the front, and the sinner at the back thinking he's not good enough, and that was me. And I didn't really know what a sinner was or how that works, but I knew that I was one. And so to be acceptable and more than that is what I would have liked to hear. I probably did find it somehow.
So I think I was like a savage dog that were loose on the street but with a lead round my neck. I just wanted someone to take the lead. Just wanted someone to take me home and make me better. Someone to care for me, really. But they never did, because my teeth were too big and sharp, you know. I think I did have an experience, but I sort of turned away, and I went in a church, and they were really lovely people, and they gave me a cup of tea. It was winter and it was really cold, and I had a t-shirt on. And then they had to get rid of me. Not their fault. They had to lock the church. And I knew I had to go out. It was the first night I was sleeping on the street. And I heard the door locked behind me. And I was petrified. And I looked across the road, and I was shaking, I was rattling for a drink. I was an alcoholic, I needed alcohol, else I was going to have a fit. And there was a guy in a shop doorway, and he took his hat off, put it on my head, shared his cover with me, and he poured cider in my mouth, slowly, till the shakes went, rolled a cigarette, and put it in my mouth. And I found Jesus, but not in the church, in the shop doorway. So I had a taste of true, authentic love and care. But then I turned away, you know, so it just sort of wasn't my time, I don't think. But I got it. I got people showing me the gospel, and it did touch me and it kept me alive. But I didn't get it from a church. I didn't get it from Christians. And that's always sort of broke my heart, even when I think about it now. Christians have never really shown me the love of Jesus. And that's the truth, you know.
That's very powerful. The common thread is good enough, unconditionally, and brought me home.
Yeah.
There's a
There's a pattern in there. Yeah.
Are there ways, you know, hearing you all speak and the books you're producing, it's awesome, it's inspiring. And I'm just interested, it's almost a flip of what your question is. Are there ways that God has got in the way of either your work or reaching people?
Say that again.
In terms of a barrier, has God in any way, particularly with the work perhaps in schools, you know, you wear a dog collar, Pastor Mick, are there ways that creates maybe hostility? So I think it's more specifically, I think probably for Lily-Jo and Pastor Mick, are there ways that God has got in the way of you reaching people in terms of practically, emotionally, the help you're doing?
Not for me, no. I used to kick doors off and rob people and take drugs. I kick doors off for Jesus now, so it's like doors open for me. I don't go through the ones that are shut. I don't waste my time. I go through the ones that are open, you know, and I'm good at seeing them, you know. If a door's shut, I don't even try the handle, you know. I can see the one that's open. That's where God wants me to be, and I went straight through that one. I don't care who's there. I don't care who's in the way. I don't care politically, emotionally. If it's the right door, I'm going through it, and I'm going to speak that truth that I believe God's given me a gift to be able to speak on behalf of people who are oppressed and held down, and I want to do it. So it hasn't hindered me. It's hindered people who know me and people that tell me I can't, but it hasn't hindered me, no.
I think for me, the question feels like it's phrased slightly wrong, just in that as God got in the way. I think similarly to what you said, I think sometimes Christians have got in the way. So I wouldn't say that was God himself. But I think for me, I have always had this strong desire to be in the real world. So not to be like deeply rooted in churches and speaking to Christians. I want to be in the real world, singing and releasing songs that anyone can listen to and not feel alienated by them. So I have had obstacles in the way because of that, in terms of just maybe Christians not quite getting that and thinking, well, is she really a true Christian? Or is she like, you know, on a backsliding or whatever that word is? So I think, like you, I've had to like trust what I believe God is calling me personally to do, which is going to be different to everyone else. Because, like I said before, I'm uniquely placed to do what I do, and that's okay. So I think, yeah, there's been obstacles, and for me, I just keep my focus on what I believe is the right thing to do. And for me, like in terms of my mission statement, which I did a whole workshop on what my mission statement is when I was really young, and that really shaped me actually. All about like what do I want to leave behind in the world? Like when my life is over, what do I want people to say about me? And for me, it is about inspiring and igniting freedom. So I think I've got to stick with that process, stay in my own lane, and you know, people might not get it or agree with it and think, well, why has she released that song where there's no mention of Jesus? Well, because I don't feel like that's the right thing for me to do, because I want to be as accessible as possible to everybody. And for me, my mission is good mental health. So, yeah, I guess it's not God. I don't feel like it's God, but I feel like sometimes people can get in the way. But that's okay.
Thank you. No, it's great. I think it was possibly who talked about authentic love, and that's, for me, the common theme. You're doing what God working through all of you, and the doubts you talking about, and the therapy through art.